There are going to be parts of yourself, whether you like it or not, that you don't like. And that's completely normal. I think society does a really good job of telling us that we need to love every single part about ourselves, but that's not always the case. And there are bound to be things that we don't like about ourselves. In this video, I'm going to tell you all about shadow work, what it is, why you should do it, and how you should do it. Now, you may ask, what is shadow work? I know for the longest time, I did not have a clue what shadow work really was. It was one of those things that people spoke about, and I don't know why, but I just really couldn't get my head around the concept of it. It took me the longest time. This happens to me with certain things, and I'm not too sure why, because it is a pretty simple concept to grasp, but I don't think that I heard anyone explain it in a way that made sense to me until very, very recently. Let's talk about your shadow. Your shadow is essentially the parts of yourself that are in the shadows. They are parts of yourself, characteristics and traits that you have hidden away from and rejected as a part of your personality. This can be for a number of reasons, but mainly it's probably because somebody in the past or somebody in your childhood might have shamed you for doing a particular thing or expressing a particular trait or characteristic. Let's say, for example, as a child, you were really bubbly, really high-spirited and excitable, and somebody told you in your childhood that you're too much. You need to tone it down, not try and be the center of attention, and not everything's about you. As a result of that, as a vulnerable little spongy child, you will have taken that on board, or you may have taken it on board, and internalized that and thought to yourself, well, I want to be liked by these people, so in order to be liked by these people who I love, I'm just not going to express that trait anymore because it's something that isn't responded to well by others. And we don't even realize that we're doing this. This is very much a subconscious process, but we reinforce that over time. The years go by and you identify yourself as a person who keeps themselves small and somebody who doesn't show off their personality and be bubbly and outgoing because you got a negative reaction from that before. Now, this is perfectly normal human behavior. It's perfectly understandable why we do this, because inherently as humans, we want to be liked. We want the people in our lives to love us. So if they express to us that they don't like that or that we shouldn't be doing a certain thing, that will make us not want to do that thing. And the likelihood is that these people are saying these things from a place of hurt themselves and from their shadow too. They might have been told the same thing and then they've just been passing it on, and then you're going to pass it on, and then your offspring pass it on, and it's just a cycle. So it's up to you to break that cycle. So what happens when we don't resolve this shadow and we don't acknowledge it and become self-aware of it? We will then go throughout our life getting triggered by every Tom, Dick and Harry who is living as their most authentic and free self, and we will judge people and think, oh, they need to tone it down. They need to stop being so bubbly and outlandish and excitable because that's just too much. That's too extra. They need to stop that. And you will feel a negative kind of way about them. But when we think about the things that we feel these negative emotions towards, we generally don't feel that strongly about things that we're impartial to. We usually feel strong emotions about things because there's a deeper meaning tied to that. And until we start doing shadow work, we might not necessarily be aware of the fact that the reason that we're judging this person is because they are expressing a trait that we once did and we were shamed for. So we then therefore think that they should be shamed and judged in the same way that we were. So it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. That is not good. We do not want to be doing this to other people because we know how bad it felt to make ourselves feel small and to hide away from a part of our personality in order to please other people. We know how bad that feels, and we know how unsettled and unfulfilled that makes us throughout life. When we have shadow holding us back, that prevents us from going for our dreams and doing what we want to do in life because we've got so much shame and so much resentment and embarrassment around certain things that we don't necessarily need to have those feelings about. So essentially, shadow work is just a way for us to become more self-aware of these parts of ourselves and reintegrate them back into our personality and accept them for what they are, rather than judging other people who are just being themselves. You do not want to be that person who is bitter and judging other people for just living their life. It's not cute. So unless you sort out your shadow side and start doing shadow work, you are probably going to stay stuck in these cycles of bitterness and resentment towards other people, and will probably get really jealous of other people who are doing things that we want to do rather than being inspired by them. And when you think about it, there is no reason for us to be jealous by people who are doing things that we want to do, because they are essentially showing us that it's possible. But when we have unresolved shadow, we can get into a scarcity mindset again, and we can think, oh my god, they've got it so I can't have it, and they shouldn't have it. Why do they get to have it? Because they're being a show off. No, it's not that deep. And when you start to resolve your shadow and integrate it all into your personality, you are going to feel so much more whole and so much more content and fulfilled in life. You're going to be so much less bitter and jealous and all these negative things. You are just going to be radiating at a higher vibrational frequency, and things will go great. So I think I've sold you on that one. So if I have, stay tuned. So how do you do shadow work? This is relatively easy to do in this day and age. There is so much content out there that can help you in terms of prompts and how to do shadow work. All you have to do is go on Pinterest, find some journal prompts, and just go from there. I do have a journal prompt guide that I will link down below if any of you are interested in it, but I'll give you a brief overview of everything in this video anyway. So first and foremost, the most important thing about starting shadow work is to sit down, question the things that trigger you. Think about the last person who really pissed you off and got on your nerves, and think about the reasons why this was. When you really sit with this and you look into the reasons why something really annoyed you, you will then be able to unfold it even further and come to some sort of reasoning of why this annoyed you. So let's just say, for example, you could be really triggered and really annoyed by, like in the previous example, people who are really outgoing and really outspoken. That could be really triggering for you and make you feel really annoyed when it doesn't actually need to make you feel that way. I remember when I was in infant school, I was sat in the lunch canteen with a friend and I was just eating my food, just happily chilling, eating my food. And the girl goes to me, shh. And I'm like, whoa, oh my god. I was like, I'm not speaking. And she's like, shh. And I literally was so confused. I could not think of why she was saying shush. I was like, girl, I'm not speaking. And then she pointed to her mouth. And then I realized that she was telling me to stop eating so loudly and that she could hear me chewing. From that moment on, oh my god, I was traumatized. I was so hurt at the fact that I inconvenienced her by chewing loudly, to the point that I was so super conscious every single time I ate food. And that has honestly lasted with me until recently, if I'm honest. The past few years, I've kind of gotten over it, but it was only when I started doing shadow work that I realized that that was still lingering with me when it didn't need to be. So I would literally be at work, and if I had to eat in a room with other people and it was really quiet, I would be so insecure and so paranoid and be thinking, oh my god. And then if other people ate loudly around me and chewed loudly, I would be so annoyed to the point that it boiled my blood, because I was thinking, how dare they eat loudly and chew loudly when I make such a conscious effort to be silent. Do you know how fucking ridiculous that is? That is crazy, absurd. And so many of us have these experiences from our childhood that we might not even be tapped into and aware of, and they are controlling our lives and controlling the way that we show up in the world. So in short, if you're just going to do shadow work in the most simple way possible, all you have to do is think about the things that annoy you in other people, and then try to bring that back to yourself and think, do I do this thing? Why would I be annoyed at other people doing this thing? Is there a reason? And just unfolding it and getting a little bit deeper, because more often than not, there will always be a reason, a deeper reason for you feeling a significant kind of way about something, especially a significant negative kind of way about something. And now, when I eat food, I do not give a shit. I just eat, and I know that if it's making any sound, I'm not doing that on purpose. That is just the sound of the food in my mouth. I'm not fazed by it anymore, but until I addressed that had me in a chokehold my whole life. Secondly, very similar to this point, is shadow work does not need to be done while you are sat at a desk or sat in your bed with a journal. You can literally be doing shadow work all the time, all day round, every single day. You can be subconsciously doing shadow work. Everyone in this world is essentially a mirror to you. So if something annoys you in another person, let's say you're in your car and somebody cuts you up on the road, if that annoys you in another person and makes you feel so angry in such a negative kind of way, that's maybe an opportunity for you to ask yourself, right, why am I annoyed in this situation? Have I ever done that before, accidentally cut somebody up on the road? Probably, yes. And just really ask yourself why you're really annoyed about this, because most things at the end of the day are not that deep, and they don't need to be that deep, but sometimes you've just got to reason with yourself and explain to yourself and rationalize why they're not actually that deep and that they don't need to have that much of an effect on you, because Let me tell you, if you are living your life being controlled by the things that other people do that piss you off and having such a negative and uncontrolled reaction to that, your life is going to be so miserable because you are being controlled by the unpredictability of the external world. And that's not a good place to be. You need to choose peace and you need to choose self-awareness because honestly, it will set you free. I would also recommend asking yourself when you're doing shadow work, who are the people that you feel like you can be your whole most authentic self around? And then who are the people who you feel a bit embarrassed around, a bit ashamed of your true authentic self? Once you have these two lists side by side, you can really start to think of who you need to be spending more time with and who you need to be spending less time with. It's not necessarily a case of cutting people out because I know that a lot of shadow does come from family members and people that we love. However, if you want to protect your peace and you want to live a happy, fulfilled life and achieve all of your dreams, you need to be careful with your energy and not spending time with people who drain you and make you feel ashamed and embarrassed and feeling like you need to tread on eggshells around them. Trust me, I've been there. I know what it feels like to feel sad about limiting my time with people that I love, but it has to be done because when you think of the grand scheme of things and you think about what you actually want for your life, you realize that it is so much more important to have your sanity and your emotional regulation and a regulated nervous system than anything. You also need to realize that there are going to be parts of yourself, whether you like it or not, that you don't like. And that's completely normal. I think society does a really good job of telling us that we need to love every single part about ourselves, but that's not always the case. And there are bound to be things that we don't like about ourselves. If we are overweight and we don't like that, it's okay to not like that. You don't need to be thinking that you have to accept the way that you are if you don't like it, because that's what people tell you to do. Like, you can evolve and you can grow and you can change, and that's completely fine. So let's just get that crystal clear. So I like to do shadow work to really expose the parts about myself that I don't like. And it feels so therapeutic because it feels like I am validating myself and I am allowing myself to feel how I need to feel, getting it off my chest, and then realizing that I can change. I don't need to be stuck with these traits that I don't like. I can make a conscious decision to become a better version of myself, and you can do that too. Let's go through my shadow work journal entry and just take a deep dive into the things that I really don't like about myself. Okay, so this list is like things that upset me most in others, but I can link them back to myself. So, lack of integrity. I get so annoyed when people don't have integrity, when they say that they're gonna do something and then they don't do it. People who don't follow through with plans. That gets on my nerves so much, I hate it. However, when I unpacked that and I realized, why am I annoyed about this? Oh, maybe it's the fact that I actually don't have integrity to myself a lot of the time. And once I figured this out, that really allowed me to anchor in on that and think, right, I don't like this about myself. I want to change this because I don't want to be like that. How can I change to improve myself and become a little bit more whole? What next? Okay, complaining and moaning. Now, I hate it when people complain and moan. It really gets on my nerves. And it turns out it's because I actually do complain and moan quite a lot. Inherently, in my body, it just feels natural sometimes to complain and to moan. I don't always necessarily moan outwardly, but I know that deep down, I do feel this inclination to want to complain about things and want to moan about things because, let's be honest, it does feel good sometimes to complain. The fact that I was getting so mad about other people complaining and moaning, when that is a part of me, that is something that I actually do, regardless of whether I want to change or not, that is something that is a part of me and my personality. So me being so triggered by this thing and lacking so much empathy for other people who do that was really giving me the excuse to lack empathy for myself and gave me the excuse to maybe not love myself. Since I've made this discovery, I am now consciously aware of the fact that that is a part of me, that is my shadow. I don't necessarily like it. However, I'm not going to hate myself for it. I'm just going to extend love to myself, be there for myself, validate myself, but also take steps to move away from that and to stop complaining as much. But I digress. Oh my god, outspoken, bossy and strong-minded people. Okay, this is definitely something that annoys me in other people. When people are too bossy and try and tell me what to do, listen, I am so stubborn, and if someone's going to try and tell me me what to do, I'm like, no, hell to the no. And I get really annoyed about this, and I'm often at loggerheads with people like this. But then that alone, just observing that interaction and that in itself shows me that I don't like that in other people, but I am like that. So that must mean that I don't like myself. Again, it's about integrating that part of yourself and being a little bit more tolerant, I guess, to other people. So once you realize that that's a part of yourself, and then you try to extend more love to yourself, you will naturally extend more love to other people. The truth of the matter is that one day you're gonna have to face the parts of yourself that you don't like. You can't hide from them forever. That's why people say you can run but you can't hide. You cannot hide. If there is unresolved shadow in you, aka unresolved parts of yourself that you are rejecting because you don't like them, they're not just gonna go away. They're gonna stay in your body. They're gonna stay in your mind. That is gonna be what runs the whole entire narrative of your life until you tap into the awareness of it, accept it, and make change to move on. Okay, love you.